We talked about the mini budget briefly, but I haven't had time to caucus that yet. It was just given to us yesterday afternoon. Clearly, they didn't feel strongly enough about it to move forward with it, and this is where we are.
Could you address yourself the differences between your caucus and Len's? It's clear that there's a different approach in the use of those conservation dollars. So, is that the amount of money, or is that if there's a single dollar taken from that fund, your caucus doesn't want to go there?
Well, it's something we felt strongly about in the House Republicans. That's why we didn't take any money from it. I know he originally took more money and then lowered that amount. That's certainly a conversations that we continue to have, he and I together. We, as I've said before, we substantially agree on most parts of our budget. We believe, I think, in the same vision for the state of Connecticut, and we absolutely believe that there's been that lack of leadership in the Senate and the House Democrats going forward. And I guess I was at a board meeting this morning, and they were asking me what's going on up here. They said, well, will we have a budget to vote on Thursday? Will we vote on the mini budget, or will there be an alternative? And I said, no, no, and no. And they, what do you mean? I said, I have been here, this is my 19th year, I've never seen the majority party not come out with a budget. We in the House and Senate Republicans have come out with 5 or 6 budgets together in 2 months. Are they perfect? No, there is no perfect budget, nor will there ever be a perfect budget. But what I don't understand, and maybe it's me being naive, is how it is you are in charge in the House and the Senate and the governor's office, and yet you don't make your deadline by June 7th. You don't make your next artificial deadline of July 1st, and yet somehow it's not their fault.
I just want to follow. I want to be clear on the conservation money. Is that a matter of principle, or are you?
No, we think it's the right thing.
Are you arguing over dollars?
No, listen, I don't think it should be cut at all. Len had a different perspective. I don't think it's an issue of right or wrong. I think it's a part of a conversation we continue to have about merging our budgets.
Dennis, quick follow on that. Some of your members have said taking money off a consumer bill to run general government amounts to a tax hike. Do they have a legitimate concern? Some of your members have said.
I'll tell you what I think the bigger concern is, from my perspective. Ratepayers are paying into this fund, and that fund is supposed to be used for these conservation matters. We have talked about day in and day out how giving money to the state or giving money to somebody else that's not being used for the purposes it's intended, whether it be the special transportation fund, the hospital's not getting paid. We can go on and on about how money is being used for things it's not supposed to be used for. So I believe in the fund, but I also believe people are giving that money to be spent a certain way, and sweeping it is not something I feel comfortable with.
I'm just not familiar with the main elements of the executive order. Do you agree with Senator Fasano that there will be dramatic suffering among some in the state if that's indeed how we're going to proceed, sir?
I think that's probably one of the only things all 4 caucuses agree on. I mean, listen, you have to operate, and you can talk to any other governor that has had to do this. You operate on executive order. You are doing bare bones. This is a bare bones movement. It's not who I like better or who I want to give more money to. It's bare bones. It's making sure the state can operate and stand on its own 2 feet, but in the most minimum way possible. So clearly, it's painful. It's not anything that any of us should want to happen.
Len said he's had discussions with Democrats about supporting the Republican budget. He wouldn't go into detail about it. Have you had any discussions with the number of Democrats you would need to pass the House GOP budget and then negotiate trying to get it to the floor to pass it out? Or have you not had those conversations?
Well, just so I'm clear, Max, I think you said that Len said he's had conversations with members about supporting the Senate Republican budget.
Correct. Yes,
certainly we have had conversations with members about the House Republican budget. I will continue to talk to members on the other side of the aisle and the Speaker. We're meeting this afternoon. These conversations, even though they have not borne fruit as of yet, I don't think we can get to a point where we have anything unless we continue talking.
Do you agree with Senator Fasano that we should pass a budget on Thursday, and if any changes have to be made, he'll do that then and make amendments, but something should be passed on Thursday?
Well, I agree that something should be passed on Thursday. I think that there has been no budget. We still have not seen a budget document. We were told last week at our leaders meeting with the governor that there would be one, that there would be the House and the Senate Democrats gotten together and had a document. I have not seen it yet. Senator Fasano and I have both asked and will continue to ask to have our budgets called on Thursday. We both have budgets out there. We did the first budget together. We then did 2 budgets individually, and we are ready, willing, and able to move forward with those budgets.
And do you agree with Senator Fasano that the really big and only sticking point is the union concessions, or are the union concessions?
I think that there are a few sticking points, but clearly the union concessions is something that the governor doesn't seem to want to get passed, and the speaker and the Senate president don't want to get passed.
What do you think there might be a budget?
Oh, Paul, you always ask me that crystal ball question, but I don't have an answer to. I don't know. I think we all agree that going past July 1st is problematic, besides the fact that our responsibility has been shirked in regards to doing our job. And as I said yesterday, if any of you or anybody out there in the private sector didn't do their job, they'd probably get fired. But July and August is problematic by nature of the fact that it's July and August, and people have trips and families, and there will be less people around. So that is a very big problem, I think.
Do you think that was an issue today? An issue regarding Thursday. Thank you.
Well, the problem is that to get to that question, you have to necessarily answer 2 questions before that. Do they have a budget, which I haven't seen? Do they agree on a budget, which I don't know? And do they have the votes to pass the budget? So the 4th question actually would be, are people available to vote on it? I don't think the first 3 questions have been answered in the affirmative.
Will we be meeting with the speaker?
This afternoon.
What time?
You want to crash?
Man, I got nothing to do. Why not? It looks like much is happening with the budget.
Well, he's agreed to meet with us at 3:15. Is it before or after?
After.
So Senator Looney just sent out a statement, and he said that he'd be willing to sign an executive order to move forward. An emergency certification to move forward with a mini budget, and the only one holding this up is the Speaker of the House.
I think that's an unfair representation to the Speaker, because I have not caucused it. I know Senator Fasano has not caucused it, so I haven't heard the Speaker say those words, and I haven't said those words. But once again, you get this yesterday afternoon. We have caucuses we have to go through and discuss and have conversations with. I don't think he's been able to do that, and I certainly have not been able to do that.
Where are you on the mini budget? You're saying you haven't had enough time to really analyze it?
Yeah, I haven't. We're in the middle of analyzing it now. I would have to have my caucus take a look at it. But, I know there's representations that all the revenue in it is revenue we've all agreed to, and that's not actually the case. I think a lot of it is, but there are significant policy concerns in there that we do not have in our budget that we probably would not agree with.
Don't you think that there is
Could you give
one
us a couple
strategy that the
examples
Speaker
of
may be
those?
using?
Could you give us a couple examples of
draconian,
One at a time, I can't.
This draconian executive order course would help motivate some of his members to come around to voting for something that they wouldn't vote for today?
Do I think it will help motivate?
Yeah.
Like, it sure as heck better help motivate somebody, because we shouldn't be in this position.
Well, Len says there'll be a public outcry.
There should be a public outcry. There should be legislative outcry. I think the last time we haven't had a budget by July 1st without having a budget already passed and then vetoed by a governor is, I don't know when. There should be enormous outcry from everybody in the state. Yes.
My point is, there wouldn't be a public outcry if I say to you, this is going to hurt. There'd be a public outcry after it hurts.
I disagree with
That's what Len
you.
says, no?
I think it's here's the difference. It's a public outcry once people realize what it does. Whether that's today, reading press about what it's going to do, or July 2nd, when somebody's not going to get something they thought they were going to get. Once they realize what it does, that's when the outcry will be, as with everything.
Could you outline some of your policy objections to the mini budget?
Well, as I said, we're still going through it, but one is the earned income tax credit. I know the governor rolled it back to 27.5. We don't have it at all in our budget, but it's certainly something we'd be willing to talk about and meet somewhere in the middle if possible. I know that we also have concerns about the property tax credit. We feel strongly that that is solid middle-class tax relief that we would like to maintain. They are eliminating part of that.
And just to clarify, both leaders afterwards agreed to let you guys come in for a special session, right? Like if Marty's okay with it, that doesn't really matter?
No, I believe it's one leader from the House and one leader from the Senate. Democrat leader, majority leader.
Both.
One of each, yes.
What is your prediction about what's going to happen on Thursday? Len said a couple of minutes ago that nothing will happen. No mini budget, no regular budget, nothing, period.
I think the Speaker already said that, so I believe that's where we are.
Well, is your caucus going to come in case something gets changed at the last minute, or what are you doing Thursday?
Well, Chris, let me tell you this. If the Speaker tells me that nothing will happen on Thursday, I take him at his word, because he has never misrepresented to me before. So if something actually happened on Thursday after being told nothing would happen, I mean, you'll see me standing on the top of the Gold Dome.
Senator Looney has just announced that he's asking the Speaker to join him in signing an emergency certified bill to consider the mini budget. Would you consider that to be progress or not? Since you haven't seen the mini budget.
Listen, I mean, I've seen it. We're still going through it, but I'll sit down and help. That'll be one of the things we'll be talking about with the Speaker this afternoon.
Are you expecting that the state's finances will be run by executive order come July 1?
Oh, I mean, I would be surprised if they weren't. I mean, Senator Looney, I mean, according to Mark, will be meeting with the Speaker in regards to the mini budget. But like I said, the Speaker represented to me this morning that we will not be doing anything on Thursday, and I take him at his word.
From what you know, what is the worst part of the executive order? He was saying, and Len was saying how bad it was. You don't sound too happy with it. Is there something, obviously none of it's good, but what is the worst part of the executive order?
I think that depending on who you are and how it affects you, I will be getting phone calls from constituents saying that those parts are the worst part. I mean, we have been very, very supportive of our hospitals, specifically our small hospitals and the small hospital pool for many years, and the governor has continuously and systematically continued to hold back money that was promised to them, and that takes a huge hit in the executive order, and that's a very big concern for my caucus and I.
What about going without ECS funding? What about that part of it? Even though it doesn't go out till September.
Right. Well, the good news is it doesn't go out to September. The bad news is it's going to go out in September. So we would hope that this would be fixed by the time schools start. Because once you hit September, guys, this is a whole new ball game. July and August, you can almost cobble something together if you had to. But by the time September comes, everything changes. And what I really hope is knowing that the powers that be that run this building don't sit back and say it's not as big of a deal. Because dire circumstances are just as bad as grave circumstances. I mean, you could just say, okay, schools aren't missing their ECS money, but what about social services? What about the hospitals that take care of us? What about these youth programs? I mean, everybody that's hurt, that's the biggest deal to them. That affects their lives. It's our job to protect them and to make sure people that need our help the most are protected. And we can't even do our job, we meaning them. And that's where we are. I just don't see how anybody thinks. I mean, I've missed one whole vacation and half of another in a 2-week period. Am I happy about it? No. But that's what I signed on to do. Everybody else should take it that seriously.
As a practical matter, I mean, if September is the next real hardest deadline, does that mean realistically the only time you can get a full caucus back, ready to go, is it maybe the end of August as school starts, or do you think that people could rearrange their schedules and get here to be ready on call?
You know, Max, I don't know the answer to that, but what I do know is, I mean, I have members that are in Europe that are coming back to vote. I have members that have family trips scheduled that are coming back to vote. Now, I understand that every single trip planned or every single commitment is not easily changed. I get that, and I know there are life events or important things, but this is where we are. This is the job we have. I don't like it as much as anybody else does, being here all summer. But if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. And the fact that there's been a somewhat cavalier attitude about not meeting our deadlines and doing our job when the House and Senate Republicans have had 5 different budgets, and we're ready to go on Thursday. So we're going to continue to be ready to go, and we're hoping that the Democrats are in agreement with that. Great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.